Did I say that already?
Now.
He was slated for morning session, this moved to the afternoon. This came from 2:30, 3:34.
Order in the court. We are calling to order the special meeting of the Board of Education, May 8, 2018. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the revised agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anthony and Chris send their regrets. They can't be here. Can we give Elsie a round of applause for her performance and the video? Some of which-
Nice job. Multi-talented.
Yes, 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 thank you.
Don't quit your day job.
I will not quit my day job.
All right, we have the 2019-20 public budget hearing before the comments from citizens. Mr. Cahill, do you want to?
Yeah.
For the 738.
I will run through this
Time
quickly.
run through.
Unanimous? Run through this quickly. So, many of us have seen the presentation before. This is sort of the end of the process, the statutory budget hearing. And for the most part, this is the superintendent's budget recommendation that was made to the board on April 10th. On April 25th, the board adopted the budget, and now on May 21st, the budget will go before the taxpayers and residents of the school district. So in terms of our budget priorities, I would say safety is the number one theme or priority in this year's budget. We're proposing to have school resource officers, which would be police officers from Town of Woodbury and Village of Monroe at every one of our school buildings. Currently, we have an officer, an SRO, from the Town of Woodbury stationed at the high school. So that would be 6 additional officers that we're looking to put into the buildings. We're also looking to make some upgrades to door locking systems for classrooms, hardening of the buildings, adding cameras, adding some access control systems in a few buildings to pilot that system. So essentially, safety is one of the big themes for obvious reasons next year. In terms of curriculum, we're adding 4 positions: Spanish teacher at the high school, bilingual psychologist, behaviorist, and English as a new language teacher. We're also emphasizing professional development next year as part of our strategic plan. One of the themes out of that plan was social and emotional wellness, so we're going to continue training our staff to recognize and deal with those types of issues with students and adults. Okay, so here's the budget calendar. We are here. It's May 8th. We're doing our statutory budget hearing. I mentioned May 21st is the budget vote date statewide. Our polling place is Central Valley Elementary School from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. I will go through this very quickly. So this is just an update on state aid. The bottom line for our district is we're looking at about a 2.4% increase in state aid, which was a little disappointing, but it is what it is. The state has to deal with its own fiscal issues, and I think their revenues were down a bit. So the aid to education was a little disappointing this year. The other thing I just want to point out, and this is sort of new for the presentation, there were some changes to the STAR tax exemption program, and we're going to actually send out some more information on this, but it's worth noting that the current exemption is, it can be twofold. It can be an exemption off your property taxes or a credit that you'd receive after you pay your full school taxes. So the state is trying to shift from the exemption model to a rebate model, and one of the ways they're doing that is they're lowering the income limit. So the current limit is $500,000 to receive STAR, and they're lowering that for those that continue with the exemption model to $250,000. So you can still get the exemption if your income is over $250,000, but you have to shift over to the credit, and that would involve an application. I think it's through the Tax and Finance website. So we're going to have more information about that. We don't want anyone to get a surprise because this is applicable to school taxes in September. And the other piece of that, the other reason to switch to the credit model is the exemption would be static from now on, whereas the credit will increase up to 2% annually. Okay, and so this slide just shows our tax cap, maximum allowable levy, and so for Monroe-Woodbury next year, it's about 2.6%. We're going to need that, pretty much that entire levy for next year's budget. It's a little bit lower than it has been in the last couple of years, so we're going to have to essentially levy right at the limit. And so here's our budget for next year. The current year budget is $176.5 million, and we're proposing a budget of $181.2 million. That's a $4.6 million increase, or 2.65% budget-to-budget increase. When you think about CPI is running about 2.44%, and that's one of the numbers that's used with the tax cap. So our budget-to-budget increase is just a little over the rate of inflation. In terms of the tax levy, we're proposing an increase of about $3 million, a little over $3 million, $3,078,000. We're going from $119.8 million to $122.8, and that is a 2.57%, about 2.6%, as I said, pretty much the same as the tax levy limit. So in terms of what you would see on the ballot, you would be voting for 3 Board of Ed candidates. I think there's 5 folks running for 3 positions. And you'd also see Proposition 1, which is our total general fund budget. And the other proposition is Proposition 2, which is our bus and vehicle purchase proposition. We're proposing we buy 6 large buses and 5 vans, total cost $1,072,000. And finally, we have our contingent budget rules. Those are still applicable. If the budget is defeated on 2 separate occasions, so it's May 21st, and then there's another vote date prescribed in June, we would have to adopt a contingent budget, which means certain mandatory cuts to equipment, raises for non-bargaining staff would have to be taken out of the budget. Any costs associated with community use of facilities would have to come out of the budget. And the biggest hook, the biggest problem would be the tax levy would have to remain at its current level. So we'd have to make cuts to the budget or additional use of fund balance, et cetera, to close a $3,078,000 gap. Any questions? I know that was fast. We've heard some of this before, and as I said, this is sort of the end of the process, and the process started November, December timeframe.
Thanks for all your time putting into
Yes.
it. I know.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
really good work.
Yeah, and I'd like to
Really
thank
good
the
Starts with department heads. It
starts with
filters all
teachers.
the way
Yep.
up.
Building
you and
principals,
your
building
team.
administrators. Yep, that's right. It's definitely a team effort.
Yeah, I have trouble with my household budget.
Give me a call.
I don't make any money, and I still have trouble. We have a couple of people who want to speak on the budget. Ray Hodges.
Good evening, everyone. Raymond Hodges, Monroe-Woodbury High School mathematics teacher for the past 28 years, and Monroe-Woodbury Teachers Association president for the past 17 years. The Monroe-Woodbury Teachers Association and Monroe-Woodbury Employees Association has always strongly supported the school budget, and this year is no exception. This year's budget is reflective of the hard work done by the school district administration, all of the school district stakeholders, and of course, the Board of Education. Even in this era of the property tax cap, which Patrick just alluded to, coupled with inadequate state funding, which he also alluded to, this proposed budget ensures that programs are preserved for all of our students throughout the district, contains, as was just explained, 4 new staff positions in critical areas of need, while at the same time being extremely responsible to the taxpayers of this community. Additionally, in light of the most recent tragedies in Colorado and North Carolina, unfortunately all too familiar tragedies in our country these days, the budget calls for SROs in every building, in every school building in our district, along with an incremental, much-needed and overdue upgrade of our school lock system. I want to thank the superintendent and this board for addressing this critical issue in the proposed budget. Thank you. The safety and well-being of our students and staff is paramount to every school district, and I am grateful that this budget takes the necessary first steps in further enhancing the safety and security of our most precious resource, our children that we serve. The Monroe Woodbury Teachers Association and Employees Association fully supports both propositions in this year's budget. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lorraine Loning. Oh, there.
Lorraine Loning, district resident. I have a few pre-comments before I get to my real comment. First, I'm kind of disappointed that there aren't more citizens here. All you have to do is start a conversation or post something on social media about school taxes, and you will undoubtedly get a response, and usually an emphatic one. Tonight is the one time when you can actually be heard by the folks who can do something about it, and there are so few people here. That's kind of a bummer. Governments, all of them, need watching. In a democracy, it is the citizens' job, nay, obligation, to watch them. I get it. We are all busy, and it's a grind to be involved. I speak firsthand from that. Many evenings, there are many other places I'd rather be or things I'd rather be doing. But it's important to show up and be heard. It does make a difference. So folks, come on out. Second, I want to talk about the tax cap. I'm not a fan of the tax cap. I am a fan of home rule. Only the local taxing authority knows what is required to run that municipality. It is absurd to think that a room full of people 2 hours away, know what the appropriate tax number is for any municipality. The permanence of the tax cap should not be celebrated, in my opinion. It should be seen as a defeat for local people controlling their own taxation. And one more thing before I get to the heart of the matter here. I want to talk about the budget process. I touched on this briefly at the Crusader Chat on Monday. Most boards that I monitor publish a tentative budget, and then they hold a public hearing where they can pretend to listen to people and contemplate changes to the budget, but then end up just adopting the budget they were putting forth anyway, usually the same night as that public hearing. So I kind of admire your willingness to do away with the pretense of considering the public, but, you know, say tonight you guys thought, hey, that Lorraine made a really good point. Let's change this budget. You really can't do that because the budget's already adopted. So maybe you guys would consider hearing from the public before you adopt the budget like they do in the towns and villages. And now for my comments about the budget. This coming school year will be the first time in nearly 20 years that I will not have a student in district. Melancholy a little. So in reviewing this budget, I am not looking through the eyes of a passionate parent looking out for a pet project or special interest, but through a more pragmatic lens of a district resident. I'm concerned with two things. Firstly, I'm interested in protecting the reputation of a Monroe Woodbury diploma on the chance that it might open a few doors or at least not close any as my children enter and progress in their pursuit of higher education and careers. Secondly, I'm interested in protecting the value of one of my largest assets, my home. A strong school district can insulate homes from market fluctuations and make a property a more sound investment. And that will be a good thing when it comes time to sell your home. If you own a home in this district, whether you have children or grandchildren in district or not, it is a benefit to you to advocate for a strong school system. With a few exceptions, districts that spend more per student have better outcomes for those students. These are the districts where people want to live and want to raise families. Now, I'm not saying that this is licensed to like spend willy-nilly, you know. Costs should be controlled and dollars should be spent wisely. I reviewed this budget, and I do have a few issues around the margins, which, you know, everyone always does. But my biggest concern is the contract transportation line. It's line 5540. Why does this continue to increase? In 2015, this line was approximately $35,200. It's increased every year, and now for next year's budget, it's almost $953,000. What is driving this? I thought the increase over the years was related to the number of students who attend non-public schools, largely from the Hasidic community. I also thought that the creation of the town of Palm Tree and the moving of the boundaries of the Curious Joel School District so that it was coterminous with the town of Palm Tree would move many of these children who used to reside in the town of Monroe into the Palm Tree School District. I thought this would have resulted in a lowering of this figure, so I can't really figure out what's going on. I went to all the meetings that occurred in the run-up to the vote for the creation of Palm Tree, and at those meetings, you told us that yes, there would be a decrease in revenue, but there would be also a decrease in expenses because we would have to service fewer children. This is an expense budget that I'm looking at. Where are the decreases in services and in the budget? So this line needs a deeper dive, in my opinion, and also other lines relating to the servicing of children who go to non-public schools. So I was hoping that in the future you could look deeper. What's really driving that? Why is that number going up so extraordinarily? So here I am. Clearly I have questions about this budget, and if you've been listening to me for the last year or so, I clearly have issues about some of the district priorities. Yes, there is room for improvement, but I'm generally an optimist, and I really want current and future students to have more opportunities and more support from the district. I'm a huge supporter of public education. My husband and I were both products of public education, public university. My children both went here. My eldest is a graduate of the state university system. So public education is important to me. We can't go backwards. We cannot provide less to students, so they'll be less equipped for whatever the future holds. This is not an option to me. It isn't perfect, but what is? I will be voting for this budget, and I will be encouraging my friends to also vote for this budget. Lastly, as Ethan, you all know Ethan, as Ethan graduates this year, and maybe I get to scale back my attendance at these meetings since I will have a little less skin in the game. Hope, well, I have other boards to watch. Come on. My hope is that there are other parents and maybe even students who will pick up the mantle. Tell this board what they're doing right and how they can improve. I promise you, every time I've done that, I've been treated in a respectful manner, and they will treat you respectfully, and maybe you'll make a difference. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
Thank you.
Is this date required for a public budget hearing?
There's a window, John, a 7-day window.
There's a 7-day window, so that's why we're having it.
Yeah.
Your logic makes sense. The protocol and the regulations perhaps don't, or we should have an early public input meeting to get what you're talking about. You know, this is mandate, but what you're talking about having public comment when something can be done about it makes absolute sense. You also said that the people should be here to talk to the folks who can do something about it. Well, actually, the folks who can do something about it are the folks 2 hours in that direction that you pointed out, because they're the ones who, in the 1960s, sent 55% of our budget from the state, and now send 29%. So the people, and they say, do this testing, do this unfunded mandates, meaning they require us to do something and don't give us the money to accomplish what they require us to do, meaning more property owners have to pony up the money. So if you want to make a difference in the incremental increase of this budget, and in all public school budgets, it's the people happy to hear you, but the people who really will make a difference are your legislators up in Albany.
And I want to echo something. I just want to share with the community. Yesterday, well, the week before, Patrick did reach out to the State Education Department, the State Department, to find out what's the formula that you use to give us high excess cost aid, right? And so someone called back yesterday. I think Dr. Hassler, Mr. Cahill, and myself were all listening, waiting on, to see what their formula was. And this is the exact response that they gave us. This is based on a 1991 algorithm that they can't figure out.
Welcome to the state of New
He
York.
really said that.
He said that
I said, well, is there
State
a
that.
programmer that wrote the code that generates the projection? He said they've all retired. We don't know. I said, well, can you give me the formula? We don't know.
He
We
said,
don't know
we
what it
don't know.
is.
We simply don't know.
Don't rely on it.
And there was three
Do
of
your
us
own
It's
sitting.
jaw-dropping.
Yeah, it was.
It's true.
It's true. So it's a
Maybe they need to go
1991,
back to the drawing board and
I
come up
don't
with a
know.
new formula?
This is just to give you an
Is that-
Are you
example of,
suggesting logic?
I'm a math teacher, what else?
I'm sorry.
I thought that would
All
be
right.
interesting to share.
Anyway. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
End of the public budget hearing. Thank you. Patrick, thank you, people who spoke. But do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 25th and April 30th meetings, the special board meetings?
Motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Superintendent evaluation form. Every year, every district is required to have the board evaluate the superintendent. For a while, we thought we had to approve the evaluation form. Every year, we do not. But I wanted to leave it here to say that we will be posting it through Google Form. And as last year, it's the same form. All of the board members can reply, fill out the form online. A lot of it is numbers, and there's a space for comments. Comments are actually the most helpful part because they give instruction to Elsie about what's going right and what can be improved. Numbers don't accomplish that. So I urge you all on the board to write your comments so that we can keep informing our superintendent. I think that's about it for the evaluation. Evaluations are also used in contract negotiations and continuing of contracts and just, what?
Oh, I'm just, sorry. I'm looking at Dan, he's making me laugh.
I'm making cases of you.
Boy, this is going to go on my evaluation, that's all I can say. Such behavior.
I hope you write it all out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
I want the
Anyway,
feedback.
All right, personnel.
I respectfully request approval for the items listed under personnel. One of the things I would like to point out underneath the certified appointments is the recommendation to have Caitlin Caldwell, who's currently a middle school assistant principal, to be named the principal of Sapphire Elementary. So,
Hooray.
So we spoke about Karen Brock a couple of meetings ago and the wonderful job that she's done and the torch that she gets to pass. And I think we're all incredibly confident that the torch will be passed and it will be in very good hands. And so thank you both of you.
Thank you.
And that's all I've got. So.
That's all. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions for Matt? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Business and financial, Patrick.
I would respectfully request the approval of the items under business financial, which include our standard monthly reports for March, one donation, some obsolete items, I believe it's library equipment, and award of, I think, 2 or 3 bids next year.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions for Patrick? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Do we have a motion to approve the arrangement of the recommended placements made by the Committee on Special Education and Preschool Special Education, items 9.1.2.3.4?
Motion.
Second.
It's a tie there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Gee, can't we think of something to keep this, oh, okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
That's it.